Hey guys, I decided to make a video talking about my entire experience with Tirzepatide. Tirzepatide is the main ingredient in Mounjaro and Zepbound. I used compound Tirzepatide. I lost 34 pounds and I have now been off of compound Tirzepatide for 6 months and I have been maintaining. While I was on Tirzepatide, I stayed at the lowest dose, the 2.5 milligram for my 4 therapeutic months, and then I did 2 weaning months where I lost just a couple more pounds and I did half of that. All in all, I feel like my story is very unique. Everyone's story is very unique, but I just wanted, now that I'm at the 6-month post therapy mark, I thought it'd be interesting to make a whole video talking about my experience with compound Tirzepatide, my experience off of it and maintaining, and just kind of share my story again. If you watch this video and are interested in going into even more detail about where I was at along the way, some of the things I learned, some of the tips I have, feel free to look at the other videos on this channel. I have a whole playlist, and hopefully you'll find some more videos that are helpful. Let's talk about why I decided to do a GLP-1. So after my first baby, the weight came right off from breastfeeding. And then around 18 months, I got pregnant again, had the baby, breastfed for like 14 months. And then fast forward like almost a year later, and I have like 35 pounds that I just can't kick. I had like 4 or 5 pounds that I would lose and gain back, lose and gain back, lose and gain back. I feel like I didn't recognize myself in the mirror. My body felt so exhausted all the time. It felt like not mine. I have an underlying heart issue, so holding on to that kind of weight is extra not great. I definitely had some insulin resistance going on, my doctor thought. I was also having a lot of hormonal issues with irregular or heavy periods. And overall, my body was just in really bad shape and I was clinically overweight. I was not clinically obese, but I was clinically overweight. So after a few months of being just so frustrated with it, I decided to start looking into medical weight loss. I first talked to my cardiologist about it, seeing if he would prescribe a GLP-1 for me. And he basically said, you know, my office doesn't manage that. Look into a weight loss clinic. I wish I would have initially done more research on telehealth. I started my first couple months with the telehealth that was okay, but it turned out they didn't have the most competitive prices and overall like nutrition and exercise support, and I kind of had to do a lot of that research myself. So I ended up switching after 2 months to Join Fridays, the telehealth. I totally recommend. Their prices are great and they offer that like nutrition and exercise support and focus groups and like that kind of thing that I think is really helpful on this journey. Real quick, I decided to do Tirzepatide over semaglutide just because Tirzepatide can lead to more weight loss, faster weight loss, and can have less side effects. I was really worried about side effects because I am kind of a nauseous person. I was terribly sick during my pregnancies. I'm someone that gets motion sick. I was really worried about the side effects, so I decided to go with Tirzepatide, and I'm glad I did. So I found out right away that my insurance will not cover it at all, which was a bummer. So I started looking into the compounds. I ultimately felt like it was a safe and good option for me because reputable compound pharmacies are regulated by the state. The medicine is made by licensed pharmacists. Yes, it is not FDA approved, but compound medicine is commonly used in hospitals and things like that. I actually work at a hospital. I'm not a clinical physician, but I work in a hospital. And I just felt good about using a compound medication since my insurance won't cover it. It would have been, with the coupon code at the time, I think it would have been like $550 a month, and using the compound brought it down to $350. And what's nice about the compound is your bud date is usually, so the expiration date is usually more like 2 months. So a lot of times there's like more like 5 or 6 shots in those vials, which is just great. So compound was much more affordable for me. I got my first vial in the mail and I was like so nervous about it. I don't know why, I was just so incredibly nervous about it. At the time, I feel like that this was a year ago. So at the time, doing GLP-1s was a little more taboo. People were starting to talk about it more openly, but it was still pretty taboo. Everyone called everything Ozempic, which is fine. I feel like Ozempic is like just a slang term for GLP-1s now. So when people ask me, did you do Ozempic? I'm like, yeah, because even though I did Tirzepatide, I know what they're talking about. And so I'm not going to deny it. But at this time, when I, like my first month on it, I was like not sure I was gonna go public with this. I was like, I think I'm gonna be really quiet about this. You know, weight is such a personal topic that I was not sure I was gonna go public about it. But I was so nervous taking that first shot because one, I had never given myself a shot before and it was fine. It wasn't a big deal or anything. But it was just nerve-wracking. I'm taking a new medicine. It was one that was a little taboo. It is one that I had talked to my doctor about, and my doctor was like good with me taking it. But I was just so nervous that first time. So I took my first shot. I woke up the next day and I didn't feel hungry. I didn't have any side effects yet, but I just didn't feel hungry. Normally I was kind of wake up starving. I was like, my habits were not great before starting this. I was eating like a ton of carbs, not a lot of protein, not a ton of vegetables. I tried to get vegetables in when I could, but I would wake up and immediately eat, and I would eat like a snack before breakfast. I had like all sorts of cravings all the time. That's part of why I just couldn't kick this weight. I had just built up some really kind of bummer habits from my childbearing years. So I normally would wake up starving and then like eat a huge breakfast. Well, I woke up and I wasn't hungry. And so I was like, oh, okay. I knew I was going to eat that day. And I had done enough research that I knew I had to eat like high protein, try to get the fiber in, like that kind of stuff. But I was like, oh, I'll just delay eating for a little bit, because I'd also looked into intermittent fasting. At the time, I just like couldn't do it. I was like too starving, had too bad of habits. But I was like, oh, okay, I'll just like push breakfast. So I waited to eat breakfast till like 10 a.m., maybe 11 a.m. And I drank lots of water during that, and I just wasn't very hungry. And so then I had like a high protein, healthy breakfast. I wasn't craving anything bad. And then I got full rather quickly, went on my day. You know, like 4-ish hours later, I was a little hungry. I was like, oh, I should probably eat something. So I tried to eat, you know, another really healthy meal, which I just ate a healthy meal because I wasn't craving any bad stuff. And then same thing, like 4 hours later, I had dinner, and then I did not eat the rest of the night. And I was like, dang, this is just crazy how the cravings are gone. The obsessing about food is gone. It just made everything so much easier. And I was just on that 2.5 starting dose of Tirzepatide, and it was amazing. Around week 2, I did start noticing some side effects. So after that second shot, I had some nausea on and off throughout the day. Usually it peaked around like day 3. So I kind of tried to do my shot. I think most of the time I did it like on Thursdays, so it kind of peaked on Saturdays. And sometimes I would feel a little extra fatigued or weak. Having a electrolyte drink at least once a day, a sugar-free electrolyte drink, did tend to help with that, but I did feel a little extra tired and weak. Occasionally, when I would stand up, I would feel lightheaded, which can be a side effect of this medicine. Always talk to your doctors about your side effects, but for me, it was still 1,000% worth pursuing this therapy. So I aimed for 100 grams of protein a day, and just kind of tried to fill up the rest of my plate with like some healthy fibers or something. And then I tried to drink lots of water. That electrolyte drink at least once a day was really helpful. Make sure you do sugar-free, because a lot of electrolyte drinks are full of sugar, which you don't want. Exercise, I learned I had to make a switch from mostly cardio to mostly strength training. And this is something I really learned along this journey. So before, I was so cardio focused, I would do like the elliptical or walking or something like 6 days a week, and I wasn't losing weight. But to increase your metabolism and to grow your metabolism, it's really best to focus on strength training. So I switched to doing Pilates once or twice a week, and then a full body weightlifting routine once a week, and then did cardio just kind of throughout there. That first week, I lost like 7-ish pounds, and a lot of people are like that if they're holding on to a ton of inflammation and water weights. They'll drop a ton that first week because it gets rid of a lot of that inflammation and water weights. And that just shows how kind of unhealthy my body was at the time. After that, I started consistently losing between like 1 and 3 pounds a week, which is more what everyone kind of recommends. So month 2 came around, and you know, this decision is there. Do you up your dose or do you stay the same? And I was having some side effects, not miserable side effects, but some side effects, and I was consistently losing. So I was like I think I'm just going to stay where I'm at for month 2. And month 2 pretty much went great. I consistently lost between 1 and 3 pounds. My side effects were pretty much the same the whole time. I tried to have my high protein diet, regular strength training, everything. By month 2, everyone was really starting to notice my weight loss. And I was so encouraged and excited by my weight loss. I was down well over 10 pounds, maybe closer to 15 pounds. And it was so encouraging and exciting. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go public about this. And around that time, I decided to really research into telehealth, and I decided to switch to Join Fridays. Their prices are better. They offer more support. Really liked Join Fridays. So then month 3 and month 4, I continued my therapy. Towards the end of month 4, I was actually kind of at my goal weight. I wanted to lose 30 pounds, and I was there. I also, though, didn't want to quit cold turkey. The research about getting off of it is not great. And there isn't a ton of that research, though. It seems like most of that research is about people with chronic obesity and people with diabetes, and that isn't truly my story. I think I still had wonderful reasons for wanting to do this therapy, but that truly wasn't my story. And I wasn't sure that I wanted to do this therapy long term if I didn't have to. 1, because of, the cost. And 2, like any prescription medicines, if you don't need to be on it long term, then it's great to get off. Like there's some medicines I'm on for my hearts that I will be on long term, and that is totally fine. But this one, I just wasn't sure if I needed to do it. You have to give yourself a shot every week. There's this cost. I had some side effects. So I knew I wanted to try to get off. And I didn't want to do it cold turkey, though, because I was worried about all those cravings and food noise and all that, like where I was before the medicine. I didn't want to go back to that. So I decided to do a weaning process. I dropped to 1.5 milligrams, so it was like 15 units for me after month 4. And the hunger did start to come back a little bit, and the food noise did start to come back a little bit, but it wasn't miserable and it wasn't overwhelming. I still was able to do some intermittent fasting, that 14 to 16 hour intermittent fasting that I was kind of trying to implement. I still was able to eat high protein. I still wasn't overwhelmed with cravings or urges to binge. Urges to binge definitely came during my childbearing years. I just had a really hard time with that, especially in the evenings. I feel like that was controlled. It was definitely still helping me, but it wasn't like everything, if that makes sense. And then month 6, I was doing that 1.5 dose every other week. So not much at all. The week I would take it, I would feel a little help. And then the week I didn't take it, I felt pretty on my own. And it wasn't overwhelming, I think, because my body was in such a healthier state. Because when I was on my therapeutic doses, I wasn't eating like that unhealthy stuff. I think that my body really was able to drop those cravings because I was in such better habits. If you give your body like mac and cheese and chocolate and like the stuff I was giving, that's what I'm going to crave. But while I was on the medicine for those 4 or 5 months, I wasn't eating that. So I wasn't craving it when I got off the medicine, which was really helpful. So it was harder, but manageable. And then I decided to get completely off of it. And I feel like 3 weeks out of the month, I could do it. I was sticking to, the intermittent fasting, the high protein diet, the regular exercise. That week, those few days before my cycle and when my cycle starts, it was harder. So the cravings would come back, the food noise would come back, the kind of urges to binge. And so, if I would have like 1 or 2 off days, I just try to get back to it. And, eating the high protein diet, kind of sticking in the intermittent fasting, that helps with limiting food take, because if you're eating high protein, you're only going to be so hungry. And if you're eating in just like an eating window, you're only going to eat so much. So that's helpful. I have continued these habits. At certain times, I've gone like up a few pounds. I'm always up like a couple pounds when I'm on my cycle, and then it usually goes back down, probably water weight. And then, I just went on a vacation and I was up a couple pounds, and then it went back down, just getting back into the good habits. So I fluctuated like a little bit, but ultimately I have stayed where I stopped my therapy this whole 6 months. So that is really encouraging. everyone's body is so different and everyone's story is so different, I decided to just kind of tell my story and what my personal experience is, because it may be helpful to you if your story is similar to mine, or if your story is not similar to mine, hopefully it's still helpful and not discouraging. I know that some people who have chronic obesity or metabolic syndrome or diabetes, they're going to be long-termers on this, and that is totally fine. I have medicines that I'm long-term on, but maybe it is also true that some of us can get off and maintain, because I don't feel like people talk about much success maintaining off of it. I think I've been able to maintain, one, because my body makeup just allows me to. You kind of won't know until you try, or there might be some indicators, like maybe if most of your life you weren't overweight and then some things happened and you were overweight and you were stuck and you were insulin resistant, then maybe that's a sign that you can go back to. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I massively use this as a tool to change my habits. My habits were not great before, and this helped me totally change my habits. I did a wean off, which I think really helped, and for, I think, not obsessing about my weight and not beating myself up when I'm up a couple pounds and just trying to go back to the healthy lifestyle. I think that helps too. Let me know if you guys have any questions about my story or want to chat about anything specific. I'm planning on doing a Q&A soon, so I'm happy to answer those questions. For me, this GLP-1 therapy was such a blessing, and I know it is for so many. I don't think any of us need to feel ashamed for doing a GLP-1 therapy, because we're taking care of our bodies, and that is a wonderful thing. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. I'd love if you subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in my next video.